What's going on, YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It is Kevin Forte. Today, we are taking a look at the New Jersey Devils. And the way this team looks this season, was last season a little bit of a clouded mirror because we're looking at a team that maybe had a good team, maybe had some potential. Things obviously fell off for multiple reasons at the end of the season. The Hughes is getting injured. Jack Hughes being injured at the end of the season, hurt for the playoffs. Luke Hughes getting hurt during the playoffs against Carolina. Was it a situation of where maybe just the Metropolitan Division was a bit weaker last season and the Devils looked better than they were? Or was it the combination of injuries also playing a factor? We're going to take a look at that today and what I think is possible for the Devils in 2026. All right, so the Devils have an interesting lineup. They didn't really make a ton of changes, which I think is a good thing if you really think about it. This is a team that, when healthy, has a really good roster. Looking down the middle, you've got Hughes and Hischier. That's a pretty good 1-2 punch, one of the best in the National Hockey League. Then the third and fourth line, Dawson Mercer, Cody Glass, and then to round it out, some new additions, you've got Evgeny Dadonov coming in there, Connor Brown, and Arseny Gritchuk. And that is also with Jonathan Kovacevic out and looking like he'll miss the beginning of this season. So the Bruins, I just did a video on the Bruins. Make sure to check that out after this video. But the Devils are a team here that, with that bottom six, I actually like a lot of those pieces. I think Dadonov can score goals. Paul Cotter, nobody really talks about him much. He was formerly with the Vegas Golden Knights organization a couple years ago. Connor Brown, I think, is a good player. Like, at the third line, Connor Brown, that's pretty solid. I'm actually quite happy with that. Dawson Mercer's still on the Devils. After all the trade rumors for so long, he's still there. I think he's a great fit. Stefan Nason, Jesper Bratt, Andre Palat, and Timo Meier are going to be the wingers surrounding Hughes and Hischier to start this season, according to Daily Faceoff. I think that's great as well. You have that little blend of a two-way game from guys like Stefan Nason and Andre Palat. Then you've got the goal scorers like Jesper Bratt and Timo Meier. There's a really good cohesion between these forwards, the centers, and just throughout the lineup. These guys are in their proper places, which I really like. This is a solid forward core for the Devils. And like I said, when Kovacevic comes back healthy, which maybe we'll see him in the beginning of next year, that's going to be another really good addition for the New Jersey Devils. And then we look at the defense. The defense could be hit or miss, depending on how you look at this. You've got Brendan Dillon and Dougie Hamilton as your top pair. I think Brendan Dillon has a lot to offer, but on the first pair, not sure how that's necessarily going to work out. Luke Hughes and Brett Pesce as the second pair, really like that. Jonas Siegenthaler and Simon Nemec, I really like that third pair as well. The only thing is Brendan Dillon still a reliable top pair defenseman? I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case once the season gets going. I think Luke Hughes will eventually be on that top pair, whether it's with Pesce or Hamilton. I think there's going to be a lot of, the minutes between the first and second pair on the Devils' blue line, probably not going to be much, if any at all. So I really like that defense. You have Simon Nemec, who's a really good young defenseman. Brett Pesce, who's been around forever, played with the Hurricanes, same thing with Hamilton. I really like this group. I think there's a lot of things that with the grittiness of Brendan Dillon and Siegenthaler, alongside the younger, skating, talented defensemen, there's a lot of good complementary. Like I said, the key word for the Devils I see with this lineup is cohesion. There's a lot of cohesion with the Devils. But they got to stay healthy, and we'll talk about that in a second. And in goaltending, you've got Jacob Markstrom and Jake Allen, who had their moments last season, good and bad. And I think for the Devils, if they can stay healthy, that is also another critical thing, having both of them healthy. They are getting up there in age as goaltenders, so that's always going to be a concern. But I do like that goaltending. That's a pretty solid goalie duo. And for the Devils, if they want to make the playoffs and maybe go for another run next season, that's going to be a pretty important piece. So this is kind of a quicker, we're already halfway through the video. Honestly, I really like what the Devils have here. I'm interested to see what this Gritchuk kid is going to be. Connor Brown, I'm interested to see where he actually sits in the lineup. Same thing with Dadonov. Like, Daily Faceoff has them in the third and fourth line. I could see them moving around these pieces. Like, they could very easily put Connor Brown or Evgeny Dadonov on that top line, replace Palat, replace Nason on the second line. I think this is a really good situation for the Devils. There's a lot that they can work with and move pieces around. And like I said, I don't think the Devils are the best team in the Metropolitan Division. And I think maybe Washington will fall off a little bit, which could be a benefit for them. I think the toughest thing for Sheldon Keefe and the New Jersey Devils this season is the Carolina Hurricanes, who beat them the last couple of years. I think that, I'm telling you, I think the Carolina Hurricanes are that top team still in the Metro. And then, if I'm looking at it right now, kind of a broad view, I haven't done a full prediction or power rankings yet, but kind of looking at things, I think it's Carolina and the Devils at the top. And then you could kind of throw your blend of whether it ends up being the Capitals or the Blue Jackets or the Rangers that are probably behind that. And then in their own category, I could see it being the Islanders, Penguins, and Flyers toward the bottom of the Metro next season. That's my right now predictions, kind of segmenting teams into like three. That's kind of where I would go with things. The Devils are in that conversation, though, in the higher echelon with Carolina, which I think is a great thing. And that's kind of where we should have them. But that's not enough for Devils fans. Devils fans don't want to hear that. They want to see the crystal ball and what the playoffs look like next year. Because, getting to the playoffs, that's almost like an afterthought at this point. All right, we expect to make the playoffs. What are we going to do in the playoffs? That's the biggest issue for the New Jersey Devils, and they need to stay healthy. They need to probably add a little bit more depth to this team, and I don't see why the Devils couldn't go on a run to the conference finals or even the cup final in 2026. It is very possible. It is going to be difficult, though, because, like I said, the Carolina Hurricanes are there. Depending on what kind of culminates from the Atlantic, the Florida Panthers are definitely going to be a contender again next season. Toronto, you have to think, is going to be right there too. So if I had to put today, like the four top teams, if I was looking at like the quarterfinals in the East, it would probably be Carolina, New Jersey, Toronto, and Florida. I think those are the top four teams in the Eastern Conference going into this season right now. And I think that's a pretty everybody for the most part is going to agree with that. I just think that's the top of the chain right now, and there's a lot of teams in that middle area behind those four teams. There's at least 8 or 9 teams that you, on any given night, I could see winning any of their games against each other in the East. But I think for those top 4 teams, those are going to be, in terms of expectations, those are the top teams. And Washington's still in the conversation because of how good they did last year. It's just, is that realistic? Are we really expecting the Capitals to pull off 111 points next season? I don't necessarily think so. But I'd love to know what you guys think. Down below in the comment section down below, what do you guys think of the New Jersey Devils? Do you guys think they can make the playoffs next season? And do you think they'll go on a long playoff run? That's the real question for the Devils and their fans. They know they can make the playoffs. It's a matter of how far. Can we get past Carolina? Could we beat teams like the Panthers or the Leafs? Those are what your metrics. When you make a move during this season, in terms of we want to get better, we want to be able to compete against these teams. That's what you're looking like if you're the New Jersey Devils. I would love to see them add a type of agitator player. I wonder if this is very early on in the conversation, but if the Islanders are maybe a team that's struggling next season, Anders Lee is on the final year of his contract with the New York Islanders. Is there a conversation to be had where maybe they could add a guy like Anders Lee and Jean-Gabriel Pageau? I think those are guys that come playoff time that the Devils could really use, and I think that really was lacking against Carolina. I don't want to necessarily call the Devils kind of getting bullied by the Hurricanes, but that's kind of what it felt like. And I think if you're able to add another player like an Anders Lee, who's right down the road on Long Island with the Islanders, or Pageau, who maybe you find a way to make a package deal for Lee and Pageau at next year's trade deadline, you bring in both those guys. That would be really interesting. I think that's the type of player that if the Devils could add another big body guy that is serviceable in the top 6, maybe a better third line player, right? That's what I think the Devils could really use if they want to go on a deep run next year. But I'd love to know what you guys think down below. As always, thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Peace.